As homeowners worried from South Padre Island to Galveston, 400 miles away.
It's definitely worse than I expected, or I'd have been gone. I should have been more prepared.
Alberto may be the first, but probably won't be the last tropical storm of this year. Forecasters are watching a new weather disturbance off the coast of Honduras. Jim Ryan, ABC News, Dallas.
The state of Louisiana now requiring every public.
Your hair is fine.
Thank you,
There's
Ken.
Thank no need to fix your hair. So welcome to the video live stream. You're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or X. We appreciate you joining us. And my guest this morning on the WSJM Morning Show is Tami Fauver from the Krasl Art Center. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks.
Are you a morning person?
Mug. Do you see that?
Yeah, show us the coffee mug. Let's see the coffee mug. Right here, right here. Yep.
Look,
this camera.
This beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Sunny morning for our heat wave index day.
Do you like the heat?
Coffee mug. It's not my favorite. I have to say, I'm fair skinned. It doesn't do well with me.
I am not fair skinned. Well, I as I get older, I get more fair skinned. But I tell you, I would rather not have temperatures and mugginess at the same time. Hot temperatures and muggy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's like, give me the snowfall all day long.
Right.
But the hot temperatures is hard to escape.
It's a little.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And we're going to talk this hour about a whole bunch of different things, but I would love to get some of your background. We're going to talk about that probably first. I've got to get some news and sports out of the way, and then we'll come back. But so are you a morning person?
I'm not.
You're not a morning?
I'm kind of a morning person.
You made
a
little
bit in
special
between.
Okay. All right, that's fair enough.
I'm awake. I have coffee. It's a good morning.
You arrived
so far.
Ahead of schedule, so we really appreciate you. We're going to come back and talk more with Tami Fauver from Krasl Art Center in just a minute on the WSJM Morning Show. I see a couple of people are in there and watching us. So good morning to our usuals. Good morning to any new people that we have joining us too. So thank you for listening. We'll be right back.
Great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie. WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
And taking a look at some of the local news stories that we're covering for you today from the WSJM Newsroom. The Cook Nuclear Power Plant in Bridgman is holding up well in the high heat this week, but having so many people using their air conditioning at the same time can be a challenge for the electricity grid. Cook Site Vice President Kelly Furneaux tells us when there's high demand, the plant ceases doing maintenance projects that could reduce its output.
We put our power out onto the grid, and we do have a grid operator, and they do a lot of studies to look at what the demands are going to be and what the resources are available to supply that demand. And so they put out alerts. And right now we are in a hot weather alert. And so there's certain actions that come from that. And that goes for all the plants that are putting electricity out onto our grid.
Furneaux says once the weather returns to normal, so will plant operations. In the meantime, customers can take steps to reduce their energy consumption footprint.
Just making sure you don't crank your air conditioning down to 65 degrees. It's those little things that can help everyone out and make sure the grid can be stable to support the folks out there.
Another suggestion is to use high consumption appliances, but only at night instead of during the day. You may recall a couple of years ago when Governor Gretchen Whitmer put out an emergency alert to all Michigan residents, asking them to reduce their heat during a winter storm to prevent power outages. Furneaux says if the heat dome were to threaten the stability of the electricity grid in some way similar to that, customers could get another alert like that. However, it's unlikely that will happen, as she says the grid is holding up well right now during this heat wave. A group of Michigan House Republicans has introduced legislation to declare the AR-15 the official state firearm. However, the plan is not likely to go far. State Representative Joey Andrews tells us the bill was introduced earlier this month, just a few weeks before a mass shooting in Rochester Hills. He doesn't think spending time on a bill to declare an official state firearm would be a good use of the state legislature's time.
I think it's ridiculous. There are, I think, probably about 150 things that we should be addressing before we start contemplating whether or not the state needs to have a state firearms. And thankful that the local folks here understand that there's more pressing issues in front of us, but I just think it's politics.
Andrews says the 12 Republicans who introduced the bill are just trying to score political points, asking him, will the legislature be taking this seriously in the House?
I don't think so. I didn't check, but I would not be surprised if it's just sitting in government ops at this point. I don't expect anything to happen with that legislation. I don't know that anybody on our end is taking it seriously, and I'd be willing to bet that a fair number of Republicans also see that this is just theater.
None of the bill's sponsors are from Southwest Michigan. The group says it wants to dispel misconceptions about the AR-15, a gun owned by millions of Americans. They hope the plan will change the negative reputation the firearm has among many. A Detroit area woman has been spreading the word about Great Lakes water safety in Southwest Michigan this week. Lisa McDonald knows all about rip currents in Lake Michigan because her 19-year-old daughter, Emily, and her boyfriend, 22-year-old Corey Ernster, drowned in the lake off South Haven just 2 years ago.
It's been very, very difficult. I lost my husband some years back too, and so my daughter Emily and my son Brian, they became the center of my world. Losing her was like losing half of myself. We were very close. She was going off to college. We had all these great plans for her. Her and Corey had been together for a long time.
McDonald has turned her grief, she says, into a mission since many Great Lakes beaches around the state do not currently have regular lifeguards.
Working with other nonprofits and community members in South Haven, we have been really trying to get them to understand the need for lifeguards. That's been a long process. We have not succeeded in our goal yet.
McDonald founded the group Save Lives, Hire Lifeguards. She's speaking to kids groups about water safety in South Haven this week and next week. McDonald and the family of Corey Ernster recently donated the life-saving remote-controlled flotation devices to Silver Beach County Park in St. Joseph and the City Beach in New Buffalo to give their lifeguards an extra tool to help save struggling swimmers. That's a look at some of the local news that we're following from the WSJM newsroom. We've got sports coming up next. Also, we will have later on in the hour our Bloomberg Market Minute, and a special guest has joined us. It's Tami Fauver, the executive director of the Krasl Art Center. We'll be back with more from her in just a moment.
Major League Baseball, Sean Murphy hit a pair of two-run home runs for Atlanta as the Braves beat the Tigers 7-0.
All right. Okay. We're back on.
All right.
Tami Fauver is here with us. Tami, tell us a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, about your background pre-Krasl.
Pre-Krasl. Well,
where are you from?
We started with the weather.
Yeah. Okay.
I grew up in Duluth, Minnesota,
Oh.
which is on the tip of Lake Superior, and
Okay.
it's a city of about 100,000.
Oh.
And so I think that Michigan is tropical.
So you like the weather here. It's beautiful.
I think it's lovely. The heat index is challenging, but no, I love Michigan, and it's very, the resource of the Great Lake and just the beauty of the natural area. It's just a gorgeous place to be.
Yeah.
So, but my background is really, my academic background is in art history and museum studies.
Okay.
I worked at the Minnesota Museum of American Art in St. Paul, Minnesota for several years. Studied at Case Western in Cleveland, Ohio, and worked at the Cleveland Museum of Art. And then I came here in 2008 to be the curator for Krasl Art Center.
What is it like to pursue and work in the art area?
Well, I
For
think
those of us, I mean, because
absolutely.
many of us enjoy the community, the culture of art museums and centers, and we make special efforts to go visit some of the most famous in the world and our community museums as well. They're treasures. But we don't see many behind the scenes of what it takes to run it. So what is it like?
And I think that there's such sort of a stigma about, growing up to be working in the arts, right? Because there's no jobs, or people think that you have to be an artist, a successful money-making artist at all times, right? And the truth is there's lots of jobs in the arts. So there's arts administration. There's people whose jobs in the larger museums are just to care for the objects and their transport and their insurance. Registrars, museum registrars are like the archivists for the museum.
Right.
Curators work with the artists and the other museums to borrow objects and put them on view and tie a story around them. You have education teams who are helping put the context around those objects and put programs together. You have a visitor services team that's just making sure that when you walk in the door, you have a good experience. So there's a lot of different roles within a museum. And with Krasl, we have approximately 14 staff. So we have an education department and a curatorial department department and several wonderful guest service ambassadors.
And I love the classes at the Krasl
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
I mean, you must have a whole coordination team to pull that off.
Yes, Nathan Margoni is our director of education, and he is somebody who grew up in St. Joseph,
Okay.
went on to study art, studio art. He's a phenomenal painter,
Oh.
and so he manages the faculty and the studio classrooms.
Okay, we'll talk.
Yep.
We'll talk more about that in just a minute. We've got to get back to the airwaves, so hold
Sounds
on
good.
just 1 minute.
Will top out around 88 this afternoon. A couple of isolated chances of showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon and early evening. Overnight, partly cloudy skies would drop to 73, and then we're back up into the low 90s again on Friday. I'm WSBT 22 Chief Meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
And I am so pleased this morning to have another friend in the studio. Our guest today is Tami Fauver. She is the Executive Director and Chief Curator of the Krasl Art Center. And we've started to get your background. If you're tuned in on the video live stream, you can hear where Tami came from and how she is very passionate about the industry. And we are talking about some of the different roles within art museums in general. And one of them is curator. And you piqued my interest on this because that's basically the chief borrower and caretaker of art installations.
It is.
That's got to be the most nerve-wracking job in a museum.
I mean, I think if you don't love it or you're not in it, maybe.
Well, I mean, you borrow something. You're borrowing
You
something
borrow
from,
something,
say,
yes.
Picasso.
Right,
How
right.
do you care for that?
Well, I mean, that's where I nerd out, right?
Okay.
I mean, if you see the front house of a museum, that's great. But when you see the back of house, that's even better to me.
Tell us
to
why.
see the storage areas, you see, there's very specific HVAC conditions that you maintain in a building to care for the artwork. You want to make sure the works on paper don't get too much sunlight, they don't get too much humidity.
It's got to be Goldilocks all the time.
All the time, you're white gloving it the whole way, and you're having heart attacks when people don't white glove or start to not white glove, and you're like, no, put the glove on.
And then you've got to worry about art thieves.
Well,
because I've seen movies.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of movies.
And you've read novels as well.
All right. Well, we'll get serious here. Let's back up a couple steps. You are the Executive Director and Chief Curator of the Krasl Art Center. Let's talk a little bit about your background. When did you arrive at Krasl, and tell us about your career there so far?
Sure. So I arrived at Krasl in 2008, and my title then was Director of Exhibitions and Collections. So it was really putting together the exhibitions in the galleries, which, some of the details behind the scenes, you're usually planning 18 to 24 months out. So right now we're planning exhibitions for 26 at the Krasl.
That's a lot of planning.
And so I was really focused on the collection, focused on the galleries. A few years in, I started overseeing the education department just to try to help alleviate the org chart a little bit. And in 2018, after we completed the Sculpting Community Project, which was a redesign of our grounds and a commission for the grounds by the artist Richard Hunt, then I was promoted to deputy director and started taking on more sort of community projects or big projects for the Krasl Art Center. And then in October of 22, I was promoted to executive director. So I've had a lot of really wonderful opportunities with the Krasl Art Center, a lot of opportunities for growth, a lot of great projects.
The mission of the Krasl Art Center is to inspire meaningful change and strengthen community through the visual arts. How are you accomplishing that?
We, well, first of all, we keep that mission in mind whenever we're considering a project, right? So we know that we serve predominantly, like first and foremost, we serve St. Joseph and Benton Harbor. So if we are doing any project, if we're offering classes, if we're offering programs, so a good example is our family days and family nights. We offer a free monthly drop-in for families to come and make art with us once a month. And there's family days is at Krasl Art Center. Family nights is at the Benton Harbor Public Library. So we're making sure that we show up in different places, that we are accessible, and that we are serving both of our immediate communities.
And I can tell you, as someone who's taken some of the art classes at the Krasl, it's a special feeling because you get to come in to an art center. It's not just displays, but you get to actually see and meet with the artists who are making some of these things.
Absolutely.
And if they've been so generous with their time, you get to learn from them. And
Absolutely.
it's a lot of fun.
And I love that we have all our teaching artists. We
Yes.
have over 30 teaching artists who are local artists in this community.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And they're such giving and great people, So you walk into class, I don't think, I think it's intimidating sometimes to get through the door. But once you're there, I think we have an incredibly welcoming atmosphere
Yes.
and group of people.
Yeah. It was intimidating at first. I'm thinking about, I can't remember the name of the class, but it's enameling. We did the glass enameling
with Vicki.
Vicki, and
Wonderful.
Vicki is amazing.
She
is
absolutely is.
Quality individual, very easy to understand and learn from, and very forgiving if you try to burn the place down. So maybe you not so much, but
we have talks. We've talked about you, Ken.
It's a fun place. There's a lot of experimentation going on. But at the Krasl Art Center, you also engage with the community on a regular basis. Yearly, a lot of people think about the Krasl Art Fair on the Bluff, and you're having the 62nd annual Krasl Art Fair on the Bluff coming up in July. Tell us more.
We are. So July 12th, we're going to have our block party, which is a really fun
I'll be
outdoor
there.
Party. Okay, good.
Yep.
And first of all, I should say that the Art Fair on the Bluff is presented by First Source Bank Wealth Advisory Services. So they're our premier sponsor, and we thank them for their support.
Yes.
They'll be at the block party actually helping bartend and greet you at the gate. So you will meet them there. But the block party is just a fun evening from 5 to 9 p.m. on July 12th.
Okay.
We're going to have Sankofa as our headliner and St. Joe Jack as the opening act.
Nice.
So good live music, thanks to our friends at the Livery. The Art Fair weekend, so July 13th and 14th is the fair. Saturday 10 to 6, and Sunday 10 to 5. We have 172 artists coming from across the nation.
Okay.
They're selling paintings, they're selling jewelry, they're selling drawings, prints, photography, sculpture, metal fibers, all different categories.
Yeah.
And so it is a non-ticketed event. Everybody's invited to come. We do ask for donations because that does support the work that we do year round so that we can keep offering those free programs out in the community.
Yeah, let's talk about that for just a moment, because there had been some move to have an admission. And then there was some discussion about that. Let's say healthy discussion.
Yeah, it was a healthy discussion. I think we're sort of, sorting ourselves out. So after COVID, we began gating the event, which we have just found. So what we do is, we're along Lake Bluff Park.
Yep.
And so we fence off the park itself. We leave Lake Boulevard open to pedestrians.
I love that.
And then we have a whole bunch of activities happening on our grounds that anybody can attend and are wide open, right? So there's multiple experiences and pathways to get through the space, first of all.
Yes.
But it is a partnership with the city, and it is a public park. And so we recognize that. We've worked with the city, and we've had that healthy discussion. So after a few years of doing an admission, we decided to use the language of suggested donation.
Yes.
We're still suggesting a $5 donation when people come to the gate, but it is at their will. We want to be welcoming, we want to be inclusive, and we want to make sure that people can get into the parks. So.
And for people who don't know, where does that donation money go?
So all of the money that we raise through the Krasl Art Fair on the Bluff supports the work that we do year round. So when we have a free artist talk, when we have an exhibition opening with food, when we have an event out in the community, when we're at the Art Hop in Benton Harbor, or Unity Day with, out in the community, or just all the different projects that we do out in the community. All of those donations support that work. It supports getting our staff there. It supports getting our teachers, our supplies. It makes the Krasl available year round in the community.
A community treasure. And we're talking with Tami Fauver. She's the executive director and chief curator of the Krasl Art Center, and she has a very cool coffee mug that she's already shown on the video live stream. If you want to see it again, just tune in there. But more on the art fair, talking a little bit about, you've been there since 2008. What is it like to put together an event where this year you've got 172 different artists coming in?
It is absolutely a massive event. We have Jamie Balkin as our director of events, and she works year round on the art fair.
Wow.
So we wrap it up. We sort of wrap things up by September after the event, and then we begin working on it again, in October.
Wow.
So it
Okay.
is year round because, we open up applications for the artists to apply in October. They're applying from October through mid-January. In February, we bring in a slate of jurors and they jury the artworks.
Okay.
And then, we start inviting artists, and it's just it's a big process, right? We round up our local businesses who are great sponsors of the event. So that takes time, and there's a lot of different moving parts. There's marketing, there's community relations, there's, just figuring out what we're doing on the grounds and what community projects we're showcasing. So there's a lot of moving parts to it.
For the artists who apply, do you know offhand how many apply each year?
I can tell you that it's between, on average right now, it's about 450.
Wow.
And it's been as high as 1,000 at our peak.
Wow.
So
How do you decide?
we bring in experts.
Yeah.
So there's 11 different categories,
Okay.
different media that people are judged in.
Okay.
So, if you're a painter, you apply to the painting category. If you're a jeweler, you apply to the jewelry category. And we bring in 5 jurors each year. One is always a community member. And then we bring in 4 arts experts, and we try to make sure that that's a varied range of expertise. So we might have a photographer, a clay artist, and somebody who's run art fairs in the past, or so bring in that knowledge and expertise to then go through and look at the artwork.
And what that does is it ensures a variety of the different mediums,
Absolutely.
so that
Yep.
not only are the different mediums represented, but then also people who are you and me, we as we're going through the art fair, we get to see a diversity of those kinds of arts.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And it keeps also, there's always this tension of, you go to the art fair and you find an artist you love, and
Yes.
you want that artist to return every year.
Yeah.
And that artist may come for years and years, and then one year they might not get juried in,
Oh,
right?
no.
And but what that does allow then is that new artists come in. So
Okay.
there's always this tension of bringing our favorites back and keeping the fair fresh, right? And we acknowledge that. We know it.
Sounds
And-
like there
and
might
it's a
be an
good
appeals
tension.
process somewhere. No, that's great. And then as far as the juried competition, give us just a little background behind that. What goes into the judging of the art, and when are those awards announced?
So the jurors have a scoring criteria, and so they're scoring every artist, and they're looking at 4 images of their artworks plus 1 booth shot.
Okay.
So they are determining the quality of the work, the uniqueness of the work. They're also considering things like, is there a variety of price points with the work? We have to make sure that have a broad
Right.
appeal to the fair. So there's a scoring criteria. I don't have the date in front of me as far
That's
as when
okay.
we announce it, but I know we always do the jury mid-February
Okay.
and announce shortly thereafter
Okay.
the artists. And so then we have a deadline for the artists to accept their invitation to the fair.
Okay.
And once they're accepted, like right now, we're in the last stages, right? So
Okay.
we have all of our artists confirmed, and now it's just a matter of if any emergencies pop up, or something happens that an artist can't come who is planning to.
Yeah.
So we always have a wait list
Okay.
of artists, and if somebody drops out, then we call the next person. And so this is like a little bit of a scramble that we do the last month. That's not too much of a scramble, but there's always a couple things that come up.
Sure. I
So,
bet.
yeah.
Dogs allowed?
Dogs are not allowed. I'm sorry, friends.
No, that's okay.
We
That's
love
all right.
dogs, but just not this time of year.
No, it's good to get the
Part of that
information out
artwork
because
safety.
yeah,
that I was
well,
talking about.
it's part of the artwork safety and part of the people's safety as well. I
Yes.
mean, dogs are great. I have a dog. I love dogs. But when you get into some of those crowded areas in the art fair,
Yeah.
it's probably best that you keep an eye out for that kind of thing.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Okay. All right. We're going to be talking a little bit more with Tami Fauver, the Executive Director and Chief Curator at the Krasl Art Center. We'll wrap up our discussion about the art fair on the Bluff. Again, dates on that. It's coming up. You've got the block party on the 12th, Friday
Correct.
the 12th, and then Saturday and Sunday, July 13th and 14th is when the actual Krasl Art Fair on the Bluff is underway. And once again, you want to give some shout outs?
Yeah, I want to thank First Source Bank Wealth Advisory Services as our premier sponsor. And I have a whole list of other sponsors that I'd love to give when we get back from
Yeah.
a break.
We'll do that. See, she's a radio pro right here. We're going to come right back. It's the WSJM Morning Show. We'll have local news, some sports, weather, all kinds of things coming up next.
Loan rates are trending downward. Are you ready to make your move? Sturgis Bank's expert hometown lenders will guide you through the process and take the time to make sure you're ready to become a homeowner. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, looking at a vacation house, or thinking of building, Sturgis Bank can meet your needs. Experience the Sturgis Bank difference. Highly personal service, long-time community support, and a desire.
And hello back on the video live stream. We'll be back with more of the show in just a moment on the radio. Let's see. I'm just making sure this is timing out. Isn't it fun to see the behind the scenes?
It is fun.
Here?
I like being in the studio.
It's nice and cool in here.
It's very nice and cool in here.
We have to keep the equipment
little
cool.
Gadgets and screens
Oh,
and
I know.
speakers. And then you got this little DJ board over there that you keep moving these
I got 2
buttons on.
turntables and a microphone, Tammy. That's all I need.
Exactly.
No, this is good. Is there going to be DJing at the art fair?
Well, I mean, there is music on Friday
Okay.
night at that block party, and they have boards that look like that.
I've seen Zach
pretty
East there
sure.
before, and
He
had
is
music.
a regular.
He is a regular.
You should know.
I don't know if he's allowed to come in, but he often comes
He
in,
is.
and he has music going on, and we give him a hard time.
Yes. And he will be there Art Fair weekend. We're gonna be live from the art fair too, so
Yeah.
don't worry.
What's the biggest thing that surprised you about the art fair year after year? What are some of the shocking things?
The shocking things.
Yeah. Give us the most embarrassing moments.
No.
Okay.
I think actually I like to tell people
Yeah.
what my role was for many years at the art fair that people don't suspect that we do. But I
Okay.
for years was the quality control inspector.
What is that?
So that means Saturday of the fair, I
Okay.
would go to every single artist booth and make sure that they were selling what they said they would be selling.
Really?
And so I
Okay.
would sit through the jury with all the jurors, and I would
Yeah.
have my notebook. Now it's on an iPad,
Yeah.
and I'd have their shots of their artworks, and I would go and make sure, because every now and then an artist will jury in and then bring something completely different.
Really?
And that's
Okay.
not common, I should say.
Yeah.
But every now and then.
Okay.
And I also just make sure that they're labeling things properly. So if you're buying a G clay print, a G clay, you know that that's a print and not a painting, not an original artwork.
What is a G clay?
A G clay is an archival form of printing.
Okay.
So beautiful, high quality.
Okay.
If you buy a G clay print, it's going to last forever. But if it just says G clay, sometimes people think it's like saying it's a wash, or it's a watercolor, or it's a form of painting.
Okay.
Because
Is
it's
that
that
French?
realistic. I'm going to just say yes.
Okay. Because I want to say giclée.
Right.
If I buy a giclée, if I'm paying more money for it, I want to have a fancy pronunciation. No. So have people actually? So when you jury in, you say, I'm going to sell this, this, and this. What are they selling if they're not selling what they said?
Well, I'll tell you the one
An
scandalous.
anonymous
The
scandalous. Okay.
one that I had was a photographer
Okay.
who juried in with all landscapes and did not bring landscapes to their booth. And when I called them out on it, they said, "You never would have let me in if I'd brought these." And I said, "You're exactly right."
What did they bring? Was it like the human figure?
It
in
was
that?
the human figure.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And it was just a little, on an edge that I have no problem with the human figure.
But artists are funny people. I mean, right?
Everybody's funny people. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that is true.
absolutely.
No, that's
absolutely.
good. All right.
Rare instances.
Rare
but
instances.
fun behind the scenes.
Coming up, we've got the Bloomberg Market Minute on the air right now. Then we'll come back, but we're going to talk a little bit, if it's all right, about the Richard Hunt Studio
Yes.
in Benton Harbor,
be great.
because that was Richard Hunt passed away in December of last year.
Correct.
And before that, he had started making arrangements, including gifting his
Yes.
studio to Krasl
Correct.
for community purposes. So we'll talk about what that meant and what it's going to look like in the future. Coming up, it's the WSJM Morning Show.
Company says it's already eliminated some 95% of the thin plastic cushions and expects the rest of it to be gone by year's end. An executive says the next step is replacing the hard-to-recycle white and blue plastic mailers with paper sleeves. Anyone who tried to buy or service a car yesterday may have run into some trouble. Business at thousands of car dealerships ground to a halt after software provider CDK Global shut down its systems after a cyber attack. A spokesman said the company's dealer management system and retailing operations were back online and that CDK was testing other applications. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
And we're looking at a feels like temperature outside of around 75 degrees. It's going to get a lot warmer than that. A heat advisory remains in effect until 8 o'clock on Friday evening for our entire area. The heat index values at or above 100 degrees are possible during the afternoon and evening. And as I was checking some of the feels like temperatures yesterday afternoon, especially south of us in the Buchanan area, it was a feels like of 96 and above. So make sure that you're finding shade, you're staying hydrated, and yeah, it's just nasty out there. I wasn't ready for that, but it is the first full day of summer. It's going to be the longest day of the year, sunlight wise. And then tonight, when it eventually gets dark, we'll still be warm and muggy. It's going to be a low around 73 degrees, and then tomorrow, partly cloudy skies and a slight chance of showers and storms, hot and humid, 93. The forecast for that remains the same on Saturday. Sunday, we might get a little respite from this, around 87 degrees for a high. And then Monday is going to be cooler and less humid, a high of only around 82, cooler by the lakeshore. We'll have more local news and more with our guest, Tami Fauver, coming up next.
ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. The first of what could be many named storms of the Atlantic hurricane season bearing down on East Texas along the Gulf Coast. Tropical storm Alberto has forced folks like Rudy Torres in Corpus Christi to hunker down.
Stocked up on water, everything, and did all that. You know, we pretty much did everything we were able to do to take precautions. Bought extra batteries, lights, bought a couple of generators.
And for those of you listening on the live stream, thank you for joining us and watching on the live stream. Tami Fauver is our guest today. We're talking about the Krasl Art Fair on the Bluff. Next up is talking about the Richard Hunt Studio Center. We'll be back after local news to talk about that. Thanks for tuning in. If you miss any part of this, you can always go back to our Facebook page, WSJM, and watch it there at your leisure, any day of the week, Monday through Friday. It's not artful, but it is fun. We'll be right back.
News.
WSJM News now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
And taking a look at some of the local news stories that we're covering for you from the WSJM Newsroom. Benton Harbor and St. Joseph officials gathered yesterday, Juneteenth, to celebrate the holiday and the groundbreaking of one project spread across two communities. Project organizers, local leaders, and members of the public gathered in the sweltering heat to celebrate the official groundbreaking of two monuments to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., one in Benton Harbor, one in St. Joseph, signifying unity in the two communities. We will talk more about that with some of the people who were there. That's coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. It's the fourth day of extreme heat in Michigan, with more than 4 million people under an excessive heat warning. While Michiganders are technically under the infamous heat dome, National Weather Service meteorologist Stephen Freitag says it could be worse. The worst of the heat is expected in the Ohio Valley and some parts of the Northeast. We'll talk about some ways to stay cool, and also, if you are spending time outdoors this week, the importance of keeping yourself hydrated and what to look for if you have been out in the heat too much, some of those signs and symptoms that you might need some medical advice or some medical treatment. So we'll talk about that and more. It's coming up at 8 o'clock in our local newscast. We'll have the latest from Dave Wolf and sports coming up. First, a look around the state, what's happening here.
The Michigan News Network.
I'm Beth Fisher. There's a lot of storm damage in southeast Michigan this morning. There are almost 40,000.
All right. Back on the video live stream for a couple of moments before we come back and talk more about the Richard Hunt Studio. Any more fun stories from the art fair?
From the art fair, you know,
How are people that walk through it? Do they all behave?
You're just like stirring the pot.
Just trying to keep it interesting for the people on the live stream here.
They
No.
behave, and it does get a little crowded sometimes. Yeah. And there is this sort of like slow elevator conveyor belt thing that happens. But, you know, I think the good problem is when everybody's trying to crowd into the booth. I'm going to give it the positive spin.
Yes.
So
No, that's perfect.
I see you stirring, but no. And I think it's actually really fun because people run into each other. You know, they talk about what they're buying, what they're doing.
It is. It's a community event. It's kind of you get to see everyone you haven't seen in a while.
And then there's really good people watching.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And the artists are really interesting people themselves. Yeah. And so I think that is like, to me, the number one thing is that you get to talk to the person who made the thing that you're purchasing, right? Like you're not just picking it off the wall at the store. Like you come away with memories and how it was to meet that person with your new pair of earrings or artwork.
Yeah. And talk about the 172 artists that are there. They're not just from Michigan.
They're not. They're from all over the United States,
Yeah.
and many of them are doing art fairs consistently. They're
Okay.
on what I call a circuit.
Okay.
So they and in particular, many of them come to Michigan. They do our art fair, and then they go up to Ann Arbor the following weekend, and they do the Ann Arbor Art Fair, and that's a pretty common circuit, right?
Okay.
We compete with Madison, Wisconsin.
Oh.
Madison, Wisconsin always has their fair the same weekend as us, right?
Are you kidding? Do they do
No.
that on purpose?
No, I mean there's enough art fairs, and
See,
we
look
are.
who's stirring the pot now.
Yeah, so
No.
Madison.
So they do it the same
They
weekend.
do it the same weekend, but the really good news is that we have a really high quality fair that artists want to come to.
Absolutely.
So there's always a little bit of a dance. We have a lot of people coming up from a Florida fair right before us.
Okay.
So there is this sort of caravanning circuit
Yeah.
of art fairs that happen. I love actually seeing the artists pull in with how they travel.
Yes.
I am the white glove curator, and they are the conversion van or the utility van with all of their artworks in it. Is fascinating to me.
Yeah. I mean, and are they all neat and tidy, or is it, as you might imagine, sometimes a little bit disheveled, disarray?
Both options.
Okay.
happen.
All right.
You'll see the most amazing shelving, and you'll see the most amazing jamming of artworks into a small space.
Jamming of artworks.
So,
Do you ever get a chance to go to some of the other art fairs? I know you're
I
busy
have
with
not
yours.
personally, but
Okay.
some of our staff have,
Okay,
and
they
I would
do
like
Intel?
to. But we do Intel. Yeah, we
Okay.
go see what they look like.
That is fun. That is fun. One of the other topics I asked if we could talk about this morning is Richard Hunt. And he, as I mentioned earlier, passed away in December of 2023. And before that, he started making arrangements for his studio, his satellite studio in Benton Harbor. Tell us, maybe tell us, walk us back a little bit before even those arrangements started happening. What happened? How did this come onto your radar?
Yeah, so Richard had his studio in Benton Harbor since 1995, and it was gifted to him through a program called Community Renewal Through the Arts. And so it's a 20,000 square foot building. It was formerly used for automobile sales.
Yeah.
It's a sturdy
It
building.
can literally lift cars up to the different
If the
showroom
lift was
floors.
still there, it
Yes.
could literally do
Yeah.
that. So Richard used that building when he first moved in, when it was part of that community program. He was active in the community with it, doing openings and events, having concerts there, different things. Over the years, it became a quieter space for him. He would come from Chicago to get away from his very active studio, to work on wax models, to show his collection to other collectors and curators. So I've worked with Richard since I started at the Krasl. We have his pieces in our collection. He's a very generous, very kind person. So we spent a lot of time together. We did an exhibition in 2015 together about his 21st century projects, because even in his 80s, he was extremely prolific and active. So Krasl has had a long relationship with him. And at one point, we simply started talking about, what did he want his legacy in this community to be? And that's where we started talking about the building and what might come of that.
That had to be incredibly exciting when the prospect of him handing off what he had accumulated there.
Absolutely.
In that space.
Yeah. And it's something that frankly, we had been talking about for a few years. And COVID and health issues, and that made it, sort of a longer process than expected, but really beautiful and very sweet. Yes.
Yeah. And walking through that building before Richard Hunt had passed on, it was almost, I won't say it's like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but it's pretty cool because you saw some of his artwork, some of the smaller scale models of things that he was planning that became large scale and UCs, for instance. But then also some of the artwork that he either collected as part of his personal collection, or that were gifted to him by other artists.
Exactly.
It was
He was
amazing
a
to see.
prolific collector. Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk more about that.
I can see it. I can see you transition.
Sorry.
It's all good.
We'll talk about that in just a moment on the morning show.
Night block party July 12th on the Krasl grounds from 5 to 9 for just $5. Then come back Saturday, July 13th from 10 to 6 and Sunday, July 14th from 10 to 5 to explore the Bluff, featuring over 170 artists from across the nation. Enjoy the St. Joe Farmers Market on Broad Street and fun food trucks along Lake Boulevard, plus great free programming on the Art Center grounds. The Krasl Art Fair on the Bluff, presented by First Source Bank Wealth Advisory Services, with support from the City of St. Joseph, 98.3 The Coast, Roof Wiz, LKF Marketing, MailMax, Pepsi, Signature Dealer Group, and the Southwest Michigan Tourist Council. Get more details at krasl.org, KRASL.org.
Partly sunny, hot and humid again today. We're looking at high temperatures inland in the low 90s, around 93. At the beaches, we'll top out around 88 this afternoon. A couple of isolated chances of showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon and early evening. Overnight, partly cloudy skies. We drop to 73, and then we're back up into the low 90s again on Friday. I'm WSBT 22 Chief Meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
Hey, and the really good news from our weather forecaster today, Carrie Peugeot, is no snow in the forecast. Don't have to worry about that. Sorry about that. No, it's 73 degrees outside. The feels like is 76, and the humidity is at 91%. So do enjoy your day out there. Make sure you're staying hydrated. My public service announcement for the day. I've got Tami Fauver in the office here, and we're talking about a lot of things having to do with the Krasl Art Center, because you are the executive director and chief curator of the Krasl Art Center. The center itself is located in St. Joseph.
Correct.
However, you recently started thinking about another studio, basically an art center in its own right, in Benton Harbor, Richard Hunt's studio.
Yes.
We talked a little bit on the video live stream about how it came to be that the relationship with Richard Hunt and Krasl, and it's been healthy for a very long time. Unfortunately, Richard Hunt passed away late last year, but there were already plans in place for how the Krasl would continue some of his efforts and some of his work. So where do things stand today, and what's going to happen next?
So today we would say that we're in the pre-design phase of the project.
Okay.
Krasl owns the building, but the Hunt estate is still operating it.
Okay.
So they have things to wrap up there that's going to take them about another year to accomplish.
And what does wrap up? What does that mean?
So that was Richard's property. So they have taken his artworks out of it. You know, it's really fascinating, actually. So
Yes.
so Richard held many of his artworks there and used it as a personal gallery space to show his works to collectors and curators. And those works are now at the White Cube Gallery. And in fact, there'll be a show in Paris and London this coming year of Richard's work. And they will be pieces that were formerly housed in Benton Harbor, Michigan.
Okay.
So his artworks have gone off to the gallery. His archives have gone to the Getty in LA. So there's this cleaning up, there's a taking out of Richard's objects in the space and getting it cleaned up and getting, various things parsed out and clearing the building, getting it ready for us to operate.
And because they're all works of art, and many of them, I would imagine, incredibly delicate.
Yes.
It's going to take some time.
Yes, it will take some time, and they've actually done the lion's share of it already. But there's just a few. Now we're getting down to just a few items, few family items or storage items, personal items, I should say, that have been kept in this space. So
okay.
So they are working. So we also, we have hired a Hunt studio coordinator, Vaughn Sims.
Yes.
He is with us for at least the next 2 years. Knowing that we didn't know where we'd be in 2 years, we wanted to just start it out as a temporary 2-year position to be out in the community, to be telling people about Richard, about the space, and in the flip side, hearing back from the community about how they might want us to see us use the space.
Right.
So it's really important to us. We know that we're going to honor the legacy of Richard in the space. We know that we're going to honor the legacy of the arts in Benton Harbor. And we know that we're going to offer arts programming, but we don't know exactly what those programs will be. So we want to hear from the community, hear what types of programs would benefit them. How can we tie those programs into vocational trainings, or, how can we make those skills and opportunities that people need, right? And that space we know will serve the community of Benton Harbor. And so just making sure that we hear from the community. And then we're going to start, next year when we take over operations, we're going to start probably piloting a few programs, just trying them out. We're going to roll up one of those garage doors that you see on the side of the building and do a few programs and see how it goes. And we're going to offer those programs in a variety of ways and see how the offering of it goes, so because we know that we really want to make this an active resource for the community and one that they have ownership of. And so making sure we're getting it right.
Yeah. And originally, my understanding is part of the perception of what that studio would be a working, active studio, helping to educate people who were interested in the community and around of how to get into this, what it meant to be in the arts, what it meant to be a steel sculptor, or that sort of thing. And so those ideas are still on the table.
Those ideas are still there. Do we do an artist in some of the questions, right? Or how do we do it? Do we do artist in residencies? Do we have studio spaces that artists are actively using? Do we have classes? Do we have a school in the building? All of the above in the building? Do we have a cafe, a space for entrepreneurs, a think tank space, kind of work office space for young entrepreneurs coming up? There's lots of ideas, and we also want to make sure that we create, we call it a pipeline, sort of behind the scenes. We want a pipeline where if you come as a student, then you have an opportunity to be a classroom assistant, and then you have an opportunity to be a teacher, and then you have an opportunity to be full-time staff. Like creating that pipeline to the arts as well is important to us.
What's the timeline for when you expect to be able to announce some firm plans?
I would expect early next year.
Okay.
We would have some more details to share. Yeah. We are working with a consultancy out of Toronto. They were actually here Juneteenth weekend, canvassing and talking to people. They were at the grocery stores. They were in the park at the festivities, asking people about their ideas and their needs. And we're going to have a 5-year roadmap from them at the end of August. And then I suspect we'll start talking a little more publicly about it at the start of the new year.
Okay. We can take a look at the roadmap if you want. We won't tell anybody.
Okay. Well, you and I will have a secret session.
Okay.
And then we'll plot, and then we'll share it.
No,
out.
and I mean, I think sometimes if you're not thinking about it directly, if you're just thinking about, he gave a studio to Krasl is going to do something with it, you don't really understand the magnitude of, number one, maybe who Richard Hunt was, his impact on the art community and the world, and then understanding really what the vision is and can be for this location.
Right. Absolutely. And we will keep talking about that, right? And Vaughn will be out in the community, and we will be doing programming. We're also starting one of the things that you will see sooner than later is we are starting to activate the facade of the building.
Okay.
So we want you to see that something has changed, and that when you drive by, you start to see some artworks in the windows that you haven't seen before. So we are actually, if people recall the East Garden at Krasl last year, we had a beautiful butterfly by the artist Joy Bradley.
Yes.
We are working with Joy again to do an installation that will be inside the studio, but visible from outside. And you can look for that in late August of this year as well.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up, because when you were talking about redesigning the grounds of the Krasl, the thing that popped into my mind immediately was that butterfly. And
have you been there lately, Ken?
No.
We've got this cool new artwork.
What is
you
it?
need to come and see.
Okay. All right.
It doesn't have a title, but it starts in the East Garden, and then it literally winds its way through the grounds.
Oh.
It's by Jason Maricani and Jeremy Burnett.
I can't wait.
And Detroit and Seattle artists who did a phenomenal job. So stop by.
To see the interactive art, I mean, that is a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
It's
hands down.
I know I'm not an art critic or anything like that, but it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. It's meant to be. And it's meant to be something that you interact with and remember. So we're glad it's doing that
done.
for you.
I can't wait to see the new one. We're talking with Tami Fauver. She's the Executive Director and Chief Curator at the Krasl Art Center. We're going to come back with the Moody on the Market update in just a moment. We're going to wrap things up about the art fair on the Bluff, give you some additional final details on that and more. It's the WSJM Morning Show.
Ever dream of having your own hot tub? That warm, inviting water, all those soothing jets and bubbles. Dreams are coming true right now at Pristine Pool and Spa in New Buffalo. special sales prices with 10% off all in-stock hot tubs. Pristine Pool and Spa has a great selection with delivery and setup available. They'll create a personal escape that'll quite literally make your dreams come true. Save 10% right now at Pristine Pool and Spa on Red Arrow Highway just south of New Buffalo.
Hi, it's Jenny from your local Big Deal store. If you run a business and are looking for a fun and creative way to market it, Big Deals might just be a great fit. Imagine a radio marketing program that allows you to trade for your advertising schedule. Interested? Give us a shout and see for yourself.
Don't wait. Go to BigDealsSWMI.com today.
Okay, we're here on the video live stream. We'll be back in just a moment with the Moody on the Market update. But are we doing well? Are we doing all right?
Well, yes. I still have a little bit of coffee in my cup. So.
Oh man, that's good. That's good. What kind of coffee do you drink?
10 more minutes. Just kidding.
You drink regular coffee. We've determined that.
Regular dark roast is my favorite.
Okay.
No cream, no sugar. And I get one of these a day.
It's just easier that way because, you know, if you take cream or sugar or some kind of sweetener, that's just another variable. And if you're out somewhere meeting somebody in the community, you don't know if you're going to get your regular thing.
It's true.
So just keep the coffee regular and go there. All right, we'll be right back in a moment to finish up our discussion with Tami Fauver on the WSJM Morning Show.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
And it's time for your Moody on the Market update, brought to you by Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today, your local auto owner's insurance agency in St. Joseph and in Niles. And here to give our Moody on the Market update today is Tami Fauver. Tami, go ahead.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to be here today.
No, all we are talking about in the Moody on the Market update for this hour is about the Krasl Art Fair on the Bluff. So
yes.
Give your pitch.
The Krasl Art Fair on the Bluff is coming up. It's right around the corner.
Yes.
So July 12th, join us for the block party, 5 to 9.
Okay. How do you attend the block party? Do you need tickets for that?
You need tickets. You can buy those online at our website. It's front and center on the homepage.
Okay.
Or you can just show up and get it at the gate.
And what happens at the block party?
You have a lot of fun. We have a cash bar. The livery brings beer.
Okay.
Round Barn Winery wine is available. We
Very
have
nice.
live music.
Okay.
So we have St. Joe Jack is opening this year, and Sankofa is our headliner, and they're fantastic.
Nice.
It's outdoors. It's on our grounds. There's seating. There's a great bench that people sit on.
It's a big deal.
We
It happens
sometimes have
every year.
yard games. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just very fun.
Okay. And so after the block party on
After
Friday.
the block party. Oh, and I forgot. I'm
Oh.
sorry. Some of the artists come to the block party.
Okay.
So sometimes you get a little advanced conversation with our artists as well.
Nice.
Saturday from 10 to 6 is the art fair. Sunday is from 10 to 5. It is a suggested donation, and you are going to see 172 artists at their booths all along Lake Bluff Park, selling amazing, unique artworks that you won't be able to see anywhere else.
That's great. And so it'll be spread across the Bluff, the entire Bluff, 172 artists for Saturday and for Sunday. And whether you give a donation or not, you're welcome inside, and you'll get a band, right?
Correct. We will give you a wristband. It helps us count so we know how many people. Last year we had 23,000 people.
Jeez.
It's good for us to know how many to plan for, because that's a lot of people.
That makes
So,
sense. Wow.
Yes. And then I should say, we also have activities on our grounds. We have our teaching faculty and our ceramics guild selling their artworks. We have Water Street Glassworks, Fired Up Youth.
Nice.
We have other emerging artists selling their artworks on the grounds, and our galleries are open as usual. They're nice and cool, so when you need to cool off, you can come look at the art inside. And we do have food trucks, and the farmers market is going on. So
Very nice.
So there are options for food, and of course, there's all our wonderful downtown businesses.
The farmers market, is that in a different location for the
It
art?
moves over onto Broad Street
Okay.
during the art fair.
So farmers market will be on Broad Street, but it will still happen on Saturday.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I love that. And I love the local artists, especially the ceramics. My wife,
Yes.
Stephanie, and I last year went to, and I still use this today. It's one of my favorite bowls because it's a working bowl. I can not only enjoy it as a piece of art, but I checked with the artist and I can eat cereal out of it too.
Exactly. And it's really fun when you have all different artist-made bowls and mugs. So you see my mug here today,
Yes.
but at home we have like 3 shelves of artist-made mugs, and each day you get to pick which mug you're going to drink out of, and they're all unique.
I bet you have the best coffee mugs.
I do. I'm not gonna lie.
And the best artwork
I
in
usually buy
general.
one every art fair, frankly. So.
We'll have to share notes on that because I
Okay.
am a sucker for coffee mugs. I love coffee mugs. The sponsors you want to thank because
I
without their
absolutely
support,
do.
this would not be possible.
I absolutely do. So first of all, the art fair itself, our premier sponsor is First Source Bank Wealth Advisory Services. We have additional sponsors, and these businesses all support the fair itself, just so that we can be prepared for those 23,000
Yes,
people.
yes.
So 98.3 The Coast, Roof Wiz is a new sponsor this year. So thank you to Gabe and his crew. The City of St. Joseph is a sponsor. Lake Bluff Park, they provide public safety, all sorts of services. We really appreciate that. LKF Marketing in Kalamazoo, Mailmax, Pepsi Bottling Group, Toyota Signature Dealer Group, Southwest Michigan Tourist Council, Starks Family and Funeral Homes and Cremation Services, Forte Coffee, Waterfront House of Framing and Fashion, Round Barn Winery and Estate, The Livery, Shoes Grill and Bar, Belkey Heating and Cooling, and the Benton Spirit. So
That's
all
great.
of those area businesses help promote the fairs through in-kind support or cash contributions, so that we can put this on each year, and we really appreciate it.
Well, we really appreciate you. We appreciate the sponsors you just talked about. And as I was listening to you read the list of people in organizations that are supporting, I mean, it's reflective of the community.
Absolutely.
And it really is a
100%.
great community event that you have.
Thank you.
No, thank you for doing this. Let's wrap up the Moody on the Market update. It's brought to you by Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today, your local auto owner's insurance agency in St. Joseph and in Niles. And I know we don't have a lot of time, but what can we look forward to? What surprises are in store from Krasl? What's next?
There's first of all, just come out to our grounds, because we
Yes.
have brand new artworks on our grounds.
Okay.
So including the loading dock door, a door on the north side of the property. We have great exhibitions in the galleries. We're going to have a whole summer of art markets, so be sure to attend those out on the grounds and buy from our local artists
Yes.
throughout the summer season. And we're going to have more news from the Hunt Studio coming up as well.
And I would recommend, if you're not already, sign up for the emails from the Krasl Art Center.
Please do.
Because you send out a lot of good information, and the emails look great. So
And I
thank
would
you.
be remiss if I didn't say, become a member, because
Yeah.
if you are a member, we'll also mail you great information.
There you go.
As well.
All right. Tami Fauver, Executive Director and Chief Curator at the Krasl Art Center. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
We're watching over you. IMS Insurance Management Service.
Thanks for seeing us on the video live stream today. Tami, final words for everyone who is watching?
Come on out to the art fair.
Ju-
Come see us.
It's
We're
happening.
here.
The block party is on Friday the 12th. July 13th is the first day of the art fair, and you can see it through Sunday, July 14th. Thank you very much. Check
Thank
out
you so much.
Krasl. Yeah, absolutely. Krasl Art Center for more.